Hi, this is Regina, and we'd like to welcome you to Ratties with PageHabit. PageHabit is a monthly book subscription, and I'm subscribed to the science fiction genre. There are many genres that you can actually subscribe to, but that's my preferred genre of reading. And it was a gift, and I'm very happy to have been subscribed and very excited to be able to share this first book review with you. Before I go into the book review, I just want to share with you what comes in your monthly box. Obviously, you get the book, which comes with a letter from the author and other reading-related goodies also. With our book from August subscriptions, there were some magnetic... You see, everyone in our house loves to read, and Regina is such a clown. But we had some magnetic bookmarks. There's also a short story that's included, very nicely published. I don't know if you can see that, but the standard of the publishing there is very nice. And along with this particular month, also a wonderful pair of socks. If you can read this, pass me my book. So the main reason that I wanted to review the actual book with you was that when my spouse was trying to decide if this would be a good subscription to get, he looked up and down on the internet and he could find very few, if any, people who had actually reviewed the book rather than just the contents of what you would get each month in the box. So we thought that it might be a good idea to share a book review with you. And it's really exciting to do that because this particular book is a really good book. So I'd like to begin, if I may, by reading a short extract from the book. This comes from close to the beginning, and in this extract Isabelle is speaking with the musketeer Jean-Claude, and they're discussing the possibility of her future. Now, she has created a nom de plume for herself, who has been writing mathematical papers and writing in a journal, because of course this is forbidden to the females in the world in which she lives. Mathematics and science and learning of any kind really is prohibited for women, which of course makes Isabelle want to do it all the more. So Jean-Claude suggests that they cook up a scheme in which her alter ego should petition her father for her hand in marriage. And this is the conversation that ensues. Isabelle shook her head in disbelief. "It's completely daft. No one will believe it. People believe what suits their desires, no more, no less. Besides, would you rather have Guillaume ruling your life?" "Put that way. What if I'm caught?" "What if you aren't? You'd technically be married to a man who is always off having adventures. No one would expect him to be around. You'd be profiting by his works and free to do as you please." "I'd spend the rest of my life living a lie." Jean-Claude gestured up towards the chateau on the Acropolis. "The strangled life you lead cooped up in that miserable room is a lie. You should be free to fly." "I don't know," Isabelle said. It sounded amazing and terrifying. So that was an extract from the book to give you a sort of idea of the kind of writing that Curtis Craddock, the author, uses in the book. Now, I hope you'll excuse that I've made a few notes. This is the first time I've done anything like this, and I'm a little nervous. I hope that with the coming reviews I will get better at it and have to have less notes, and that more of our little ratty friends will join me in my book reviews. So, the book, if I haven't already said, is called An Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors, and that makes perfect sense when you read the book as to why that should be the title. You can see Isabelle and Jean-Claude on the cover there, and it's a perfect blending of courtly intrigue mixed with the science fiction, which I would not quite classify as strictly steampunk, but it does have certain elements of that subgenre of science fiction. There are many mechanical apparatus in the book, including one of the main characters, and it's set in a partially historical setting, because obviously it's set on a different world, but historically equates to the time when there were musketeers and the French courts and the Italian courts, and those kind of principalities were involved. So it kind of does fit in with the steampunk element of science fiction, which is interesting because steampunk is something that I'd never really considered that might be something that I'd be interested in, but after reading this I'm certainly into the idea of looking a little bit more along that particular subgenre. So I have to say the writing is excellent, the storyline is entertaining, it's very compelling, just fun all round, really. It follows the fate of Princess Isabelle, who's destined to enter into a marriage that's supposed to bring peace to a troubled region of the world, but it turns out that the larger story is far more sinister and far more layered than a simple political marriage would be. As I said in the introduction to that excerpt that I just read, in the world in which Isabelle lives, the lives of women are very restricted. They're not permitted to study mathematics or science. They're very much kept for those political marriages and that kind of in keeping, I suppose, with the time period that's been drafted into the novel. But of course, those things being forbidden to women, that's exactly what Isabelle is interested in, and she's all about science and mathematics and learning, and it's a good job she is, really, because if she hadn't the intelligence and the wit and the quick thinking that she does have, the whole thing could have been a complete disaster, not only for her but for the entire world in which she lives. It is an incredibly well-crafted plot, a good mix of action and adventure and intrigue, with more than a smattering of irreverent humour, which is provided for the most part between the interaction of the faithful musketeer character Jean-Claude and Isabelle. And here I'd like to read a second excerpt which kind of shows a little bit of that. I have to give fair warning that this is perhaps a little bit saucy. So in this excerpt, one attempt has already been made on Isabelle's life, and in order to safeguard her, she has made a scheme with Jean-Claude where a decoy will ride in her carriage and she will ride as one of the soldiers, the outriders. But the other bodyguard that she has, that's been provided by her husband-to-be, knows nothing about this scheme that they've hatched between them. And Vincent, of course, is not going to be very happy when he discovers it. And when he discovers that the person in the carriage is Isabelle's handmaiden Valerie, and not Isabelle herself. Vincent was just helping Valerie into the coach when he paused and gripped her hand, her right hand. He stepped back and looked around, a thunderous expression on his face. "Damn! He's twigged to it," Jean-Claude said. But just how much of a scene was the man willing to make? Valerie tugged on his arm, and there was an angry, whispered conversation before he reluctantly allowed himself to be dragged on board. Jean-Claude let out a breath of relief. "I can't believe he didn't throw a fit." "I can," Isabel said. At Jean-Claude's inquisitive look, she said, "He's been up Valerie's skirt 6 nights out of the last 7. Jean-Claude snorted. "Damn, I didn't think he had it in him." "Logically, I believe he had it in her." Isabel flushed at her own joke. She would never have made such a ribald comment to anyone else. Jean-Claude nearly guffawed himself out of the saddle and took a moment to restore what passed for a serious mien. "But do you trust him with your handmaid?" Isabel shot him a reproachful look. "I trust her to make her own choices." One thing that I found very refreshing about this book was the sorcery that's involved, because it is a science fiction fantasy kind of novel, and so you could have expected there to be some kind of sorcery involved. Now, the 2 main families in the story are both from 2 different lines of hereditary sorcery, and they are unique. I think I don't think I've come across this kind of magic before. Crack has really put a lot of thought into not only his world building but his philosophies, his strains of magic, his religions, and it all comes together to make an incredibly well crafted novel, and one that is just delightful to read, in its depth, in its humour. But it's not all humorous. There's a lot of comment on deeper matters like dreams and thoughts and wishes, and those religion and the nature of good and evil and what should and shouldn't be done. So it covers such a whole range of everything that you could possibly wish for in a very well written book. I'd like to close with one of those deeper thoughts from the book. This is on the nature of justice. It comes from the end of the book, so I'm not going to say too much more about it because I don't want to spoil the story for those of you that would like to read it. But this particular quote I felt was very deep and very thought-provoking. So I'd like to close with that, if I might. "If justice was something handed down from on high, then we should all be punished most heinously. But justice is not handed down from on high. It is a thing we mortals make for ourselves. It is therefore imperfect and flawed, and it breaks from time to time, and we must repair it, rebuild it, and improve it so that we will be forced to make new mistakes." And I'm certain that new mistakes are going to be exactly what gets made in the coming books, because this is book 1 in the Risen Kingdoms series. I have no idea how many books there will be, but I for one will certainly be looking for the next book, and I hope that at some point I'll be able to share that with you too, with the help of my little ratty friends. I have the next book from PageHabit. It's called Magician's Impossible, and I look forward to reading that. And when I'm done, hopefully Regina or Clay or any of her other little ratty friends will help me to share that book review with you. So thank you for listening, and I hope that you'll join me next time.